Hello there, and welcome back to the Net Report. Chris here. I'm joined by my co host Jacob, and today we're going to be ranking all the major NBA free agency moves in this tier list right here. So we're going to just dive into it right now, right away. And first up, probably the biggest, most consequential signing, Paul George to the
Luke Cornett.
76ers.
Oh,
Luke, my bad. Not Luke Cornett, not Luke Cornett. Paul George to the 76ers, 4 years, 212 million. And I think we both can agree on this, but I do want to hear your takes too. It's got to be S tier, right? It's definitely the most consequential out of everything this free agency period.
sit with me, boys. D tier.
Nah, come on. You know you don't believe that in your hearts of hearts.
It's S tier.
It's
Only
S
because
tier.
it has to be. Like,
If it's not, they're in deep, deep trouble. But maybe come year four, it might be D tier, but none of that matters if you're competitive and
when you give
win
a
a chip.
player, when you sign a player to a max contract,
hmm
unless your name's like Ben Simmons or Tobias Harris, generally it's an S tier signing.
Time will tell. I mean, the contract can look bad later on, especially if they're not healthy. There's so much going into it, but right now it has to be an S tier. And for Philly fans, if it's not an S tier, I feel for you because it's going to be really, really bad. But we made a whole video about it earlier. I think it's a good signing. We're just going to have to hope they can stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the last year, 100% will not look good at all. They'll probably negative value as far as the contract is worth. As long as you can get the 2 years out of this where it's like S tier contract worth and the third tier is up in the air, you make this move 100 and you'll only think twice about it. We've talked about it before. He's the perfect pairing if you want a big three next to what Embiid and Maxi are. Health, health, health. We'll see come season time.
Yep, sir. Yes, sir. Moving on to the next one, Isaiah Hartenstein to the Thunder. I believe it was a 3 year, $87 million contract, something around those numbers. I was a lot lower on this signing to start, and then I found out the last year's a team option, and I'm circling between high C, low B. I
I
want
have
to
him
hear
at B.
B,
I
and
have him at B.
I would agree for the most part. I think just because of the fit and how consequential he's gonna be, like for that team, like he's gonna help with the rebounding. He's gonna be a great screen setter. There's gonna be so many things he can do for this team. I feel like it's B just based off that. I don't like the contract number, especially for a guy who hasn't started a full 82 game season. But still, man, him and Chet can be scary together, and it minimum B, but we'll
Yeah,
see.
I think for fit alone, it's a B. The problem that I have is it's an astronomical overpay. You
hmm
kind of had to have to snag him away from New York anyways. But for the fit alone and what it allows them to do, you can play Chet more of a traditional four, or if you need to, you can move Hartenstein to the bench and have Chet at the five. I think ideally they want him at the four and Hartenstein at the five. And I just think I'm going to call it two-man game or the pick and roll or screen setting, like all of it combined between him and Shea, it's just going to be amazing. He's a beast in the paint on the glass. Like it's going to be really fun for this team. I don't love the contract value in the sense of how much he's getting paid, but team option for the third year that kind of lines up for when all their big contracts they have extensions are going to hit. So it's good to match that money in this way. Um, Short term, great, but I mean, we'll see.
No, definitely agree with all those points there, and especially if you're a small market, yeah, you're gonna have to overpay. But yeah, I completely agree.
That's a very good point, especially for small markets like that.
But the third one we're going to be moving on to now is DeMar DeRozan to the Kings, sign and trade. And I'm going to be honest, right off the bat, I'm kind of thinking A tier. I kind of want to hear what you think, but I think it just elevates the floor for the Kings.
From an offensive standpoint, sure,
Definitely.
it elevates their offensive ability. But we don't really need to talk too much about the whole sign and trade aspect of it. We'll just talk
Mhm.
about from a signing specific aspect. The Kings got him. I think this is going to look very ugly at the end of it. Um,
Ooh.
like at the end of this contract.
That's fair. I mean, that's how it typically goes for older guys, but
But again, you're paying for what a player has been in the past, so you kind of take it for what it is. It's either that or you don't get him, and you're gonna be at best a first round out playoff team at best. With him, I don't think they can make it to the finals, but I'll just throw this out there. They can be a sneaky dark horse conference finals team
Hmm.
solely for the fact that I think they're going to legitimately score one of the best offensive ratings we've ever seen. Like
Hmm.
what the Pacers and the Celtics were last year offensively, the Kings might beat that
They have a
because
chance for that, yeah.
their offense it's just astronomically insane. Like it's beyond crazy. Um, I, I'm excited to see this offense. I really am. But yeah, from DeMar DeRozan. I mean, I've always been particularly high on DeMar DeRozan, only in the sense of I think he's just straight up a bucket. And one little sneaky aspect, I think what he's going to provide to this team, free throw percentage. He gets to the free throw line a buttload, and he shoots it at a very good percentage for a team last year that did not shoot it very well, especially in the playoffs. They were shooting sub 80% in the playoffs last year, and that's how they got in trouble in that first round.
No, most certainly. So I think we'll stick A here. But agree with a lot of those points. I don't think it necessarily makes them finals contenders, but it
No,
raises the floor of this team, which is important in a Western Conference that
it
has,
raises their Florida Conference Finals, which is amazing for
well,
them.
I'd say ceiling, not floor. I'm sure that's what you
No,
meant, but
that's
yeah.
what I meant. If they had
But
signed
they
Luke
should be a
Cornett,
playoff team. They
if
should.
they had signed Luke Cornett, their floor would be
Oh,
conference
definitely,
finals. But
definitely.
potatoes, potatoes.
Next we have James Harden, 2 years, 70 million, and I think we're both not the biggest James Harden fans. If you've seen this channel, you know that.
I forgot he signed a contract.
Um,
You said James Harden. I'm like, who?
with the Clippers, obviously re-signed with the Clippers, 2 year, $70 million contract. I'm thinking
See,
C. Yeah, that I'm glad we're kind of on the same page there.
it
It's so weird after Paul George leaving too, and then you pay James Harden 35, but you wouldn't pay Paul George, and now you're just it's gross.
this is a we need to make sure we have recognizable names in the building for our
Hmm.
new stadium.
No, 100%, 100%.
And listen, I get it. James Harden can do things for you in the regular season. Like he can get you wins in the regular season, especially if Kawhi ends up missing games. He's not going to do anything for you in the playoffs. Like
Hmm.
he like
Same
I,
old thing.
I get why they needed to do this. Like I get it. But like yucky.
No, 100%. I ain't got much more to say other than that. It's gonna
It's
keep
just
them
yucky.
maybe a play-in team, maybe sixth or fifth seed. Like if they really, really like Kawhi has a really good healthy stretch, but other than that, there's just not much else to the signing. It's
I,
as C
I
tier as you can get.
I mean, he's gonna sell tickets and he's gonna sell jerseys and he can still win you games. Like I'm not saying like he's a very fine player. He's if we're talking about James Harden being your third option, awesome. But
Hmm.
he's your second option most nights, and some nights he might be your first option with
Hmm.
the Kawhi Leonard injury. So it's like that's just blah.
100%, 100% agree with you there. We'll move on next to Contavious Caldwell Pope to the Magic, 3 years, 66 million. And I think right there with kind of with DeRozan A tier, like
KCP.
I think. Do you agree with A tier on this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
Again,
love the
this is
backcourt pairing of him and Suggs.
I do
Just
too. I love it. It's immediately one of the best defensive backcourts. Obviously White and Drew being the best. And to be fair, KCP's defense has slipped in recent years, but he's still a very, very good
mhm,
defender. And he just gives you the one thing that the Magic didn't have. 3 and D where the
mhm.
three is actually falling.
Yep.
Um
40% from three, so important for this team. I mean,
so important.
s-
And he can kind of I wouldn't say facilitate, but he can still pass the ball
mhm.
decently.
Which is important because Orlando really they're relying on Jalen Suggs very heavily, Paulo Banchero. There's not a lot of playmakers on this team, so
No, they really, really need to help going forward. That Paolo can kind of develop into a bit of a more
mhm,
of a playmaker. Same thing how Tatum needed to progress into that. I kind of see them in similar aspects. It's a little bit of an overpay, like slightly, maybe I would say. But
mhm,
again, small market Magic. You gotta lure free agents away from like NBA final champions Denver Nuggets. Is crazy that they lured him away from that.
mhm.
And the contract isn't even all that much of an overpay. It's what we said, 3 years, 66
Yeah, I'd
million.
say maybe an overpay by like 2 to 4 million.
Yeah,
Like
like
you
I
can't
should
tell
be.
me
I'm sorry.
KCP's not worth
I should
18
retract that.
million.
That's like, yeah, it's slightly above market value, I would
Mm-hmm.
say. If anything, this will allow Franz, Paolo, Suggs, all those not young guys but younger guys to have a veteran presence who, when things get a little sideways, he can kind of calm them down. He can make a couple buckets when they need to. He can just be that kind of like dad in the room.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't raise them to finals levels, but this definitely, I think, raises them to be if they don't make it out of the first round, matchup dependent. I'm gonna be a little disappointed.
Mm-hmm. It's hard because you got the four beasts now in the East, as I like to call it.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
again,
I
matchup
wouldn't say
dependent.
they're 100% a second round team, but like depending on the matchups, if you tell me at the end of the season they get a Bucks team and they end up defeating them, or they defeat Philly who's missing a player, like I'd believe you. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. So
Yeah, even if we see like a Cavs rematch, I'm like, yeah, they should 100% kind of probably win that. But I mean, this is perfect. This is genuinely perfect for the Magic.
now, speaking of perfect signings, let's move on to a
Luke
very not
Cornett
perfect,
minimum.
no, very not perfect signing. Tobias Harris, 2 years, 52 million to Detroit, and I think we both got this one. Like, it's got to be D tier, right? God, I get it. It's the
I
Pist.
don't agree
Don't
with
agree.
you.
Okay,
I don't agree with you.
can't be higher than a C tier.
It's not higher than a C.
No.
I personally think it's C tier, and I'll let you know
Hmm.
why. With the new CBA, you have to spend
There's a
anyway.
yep. There's a
There's a
salary floor.
spending floor. So with that, you're gonna see players get paid more than they should.
Mm,
This is also a veteran on a team that has desperately, desperately needed someone to kind of lead these kids forward. Is Tobias Harris the best veteran to do that? No, but he's a veteran.
mm-hmm.
But this is fine value. He's fine. I always thought that if he's your fourth best player, you're on a rock star team. If he's your third best player,
Eh.
uh, especially if he was on a max, uh, but he's gonna give them solid offense when sometimes the younger guys are kind of going all bananas and crazy and throwing the ball around the gym. It's fine. I like it from a team aspect. This like they
Just
could
that
have
number.
they could have spent
Mm-hmm.
25 billion in a worse way. I'll say
Mm-hmm.
that. It's not a needle pusher, but sometimes these bad developing teams kind of make these weird little moves. Worst thing comes to worst, it's not an untradeable contract if someone at trade deadline's like, yo, I really need like a fourth option and they have a bad contract to get rid of. Like,
I would be genuinely shocked if someone was
I will
knocking
be
on the
I
door for
I will be
Tobias Harris at
shocked.
26 million, but
I will be shocked. But it's not untradeable.
I think you convinced me to at least put it in C tier. But man, like I kind of want to be mean and put it down there,
It
but
has neutral value.
mm-hmm,
I think that he's getting overpaid substantially. I don't think he's worth more than an MLE personally.
mm-hmm. Ooh, yeah, I
But
kind of agree.
but I think he does like he can still score decently fine. And I think he's gonna provide a good veteran presence. Like he's been in the playoffs enough that he can work with these guys. So I think it balances without it's neutral at C for me. Like and I'm a Tobias Harris hater as a Celtics fan especially. And I've always thought it was funny they chose him over Butler. But it's fine. Like I'm not gonna fault the Pistons for spending their money this way. Who else were they gonna throw 26 million at? Like
Yeah. We'll move on to the next one though. Jonas Valanciunas to the Wizards, 3 years, 30 million. This was just an insanely weird signing. I don't think
yucky.
anyone really saw it. I almost
Yucky.
want to put D as well for Yucky, but I mean,
It's not fair. It's actually
it's
amazing
it
value.
it is.
Such good value, but I hate the fit. Why the Wizards?
You,
Urgh.
I think can we agree on a C for this one?
I don't know. That feels mean.
It does feel mean, but I'm just like,
He's okay. So the
especially
value.
now that they have
Okay, so
Sar.
like value, it's A tier. The role he's going to be playing, he's kind of going to. I'm going to be right and say I think he's going to start at center for at least a good portion of the season
Hmm.
while they kind of like ease Alex Sarr in. So I get it from that aspect and standpoint. I
Mm-hmm.
would have just really liked it if the Wizards didn't get someone this good. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'd have rathered him on a contender,
Mm-hmm.
but this is a very tradable contract. This is less than the MLE.
So you think a B tier's a little fair for this, or C like
Think B because
B?
you sign him for 10 million, you let him kind of ease Sar into the season, kind
Be a
of
mentor.
be a mentor. You trade him for someone else in the MLE and like a second or God forbid a first, like a super protected first. You got to think of it that way too. I think.
He'll be a fine mentor. It's just we wanted to see him on a contender. Let's be real.
Yeah, Lakers fans were punching air when he signed for
With
that,
the
bro.
Wizards. Mm-hmm.
They were punching air.
But we'll move on to the next signing now. We have Klay Thompson, who signed a 3-year, $50 million deal with the Mavericks, and signing's pretty polarizing. I'm gonna be honest. There's like 3 letters here that I feel like you could convince me with. I'm thinking around the B tier, but I want to hear what you have to say.
God, I don't want to put everyone in B tier, but this
Mm-hmm.
is a very neutral contract for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so neutral that it's C tier because this is, to be very honest with you, this is very fine
Mm-hmm.
value
Good.
for
Mm-hmm.
this is excellent value for what Klay Thompson is as a player. He's still, I'm expecting him to score over 15 points a game. That's what I expect of him this season. He shot it decently efficiently last year. There was a couple games that got really bad efficiency wise, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone's like, "Oh, look, he can't shoot the ball anymore." He's still a
Yeah.
fine player. The issue is the defense is just non-existent now.
Mm-hmm.
It,
Especially next to Luca and Kyrie now, where
it
they need
that
wings.
that's where I'm like, God, I don't love this signing. Then you're like, oh, well, maybe they have some interior presence. I'm like, well, PJ Washington really isn't known as a defender. And it's like, okay, Derek Wiley, Daniel Gafford, you do have some interior presence that way. You've lost Derek Jones Jr. You did get
Najee
um
Marshall, yeah.
Najee Marshall, and okay, that's fine. So I do kind of like struggle from it. I don't think it's so net negative neutral that I would say it's a C tier. I would say I'm iffy on it, so I'd say B feels
Mm-hmm.
fair.
Next we got a couple re-signings here. We have Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins of the Thunder re-signing. Isaiah Joe was, I believe, 4 years, 4-year, 48 million for Isaiah Joe, and 4-year, 45 million, sorry, for Aaron Wiggins. So pretty fair valued contracts, I'd say, for them for the most part, and good money for them too. They lock up long term money, and I think this is more of
Tradable
like a
salaries.
tradable salaries. They can play above this contract if that makes sense. I
I would
think.
agree. I think I'm at the point where I really like Isaiah Joe, so I'm leaning more A tier with him
Mhm.
for this.
I low key kind of agree. Wiggins, I'm not as high on. Like, I don't want to be mean and say C, so I'm maybe B ish for him. But
I'm not as familiar with him, so I really
mhm.
don't feel comfortable. Like I'm not as familiar. Isaiah Joe, I love that kid. He is
Mhm.
so much fun to watch play. Feels like phenomenal value for
Yeah,
him.
100%, especially over a 4-year period.
You could do B or C for Wiggins, and I really
Mhm.
wouldn't tell you otherwise. I'm like,
It felt like he's slowly getting phased out of their rotation a little bit.
that's the problem with their.
And
Well, again, yes, but you don't want to lose him for nothing. So at least
mhm.
if you sign him for something semi MLE ish, tons of trade avenues open
But
up.
he still has a ton of value too. So like, it's really,
Yeah,
I'm gonna say top a C tier just because he's not there yet. But
yeah, I also agree that rotation has been
because if
for
he, if
about a
you
year
tell
and a
me he
half.
only plays 15 minutes a game, like I 100% believe you because that Thunder rotation is deep. But then you're paying 10, 12 plus million for this guy. So solid re-signings. Not saying they shouldn't have re-signed Wiggins, and obviously they should have re-signed Joe. I like what the Thunder cooked up here. So definitely.
Now they just need to go out and get Gordon Hayward on a minimum.
Yeah, once again, right? Next we have Chris Paul signing a 1-year deal with the San Antonio Spurs, 1 year, $11 million, and dare I
S
say, I was gonna
tier.
ask about that, and I think
S
if
tier.
this might be the only
S
other
tier.
S tier.
S tier. I love
It's
it.
it,
I love
we
this
might be
signing.
overreacting a little bit, to be
I don't
fair,
care.
but just the mentorship and the veteran presence he's gonna bring for Stephon Castle, and most importantly, Victor Wembanyama. Whoo, it's gonna be a
There has
show in San
never
Antonio. It's gonna
there
be a
has
show.
never been a team that so badly needed a point guard I've ever
hmm
witnessed in my entire life.
What are you talking
Then
about, man? You
in
don't.
2023,
You don't like seeing
San Antonio
Jeremy
Spurs.
Sohan run the points and chuck the ball into the stands? Come on, man.
6'8" Jeremy Sohan, bro. Oh my god.
They really tried the Giannis route where like in 2016 they had Giannis play point, but Giannis was actually kind of good at it. Jeremy Sohan was not,
No,
and
he
it
was
was.
awful at it. And so when it came out, like we all knew they needed the point guard, and like the dream scenario was, yeah, just bring it Chris Paul. He's not going to be like anything
Mm,
special, but he'll throw lobs up to Wemby and he'll pass incredible balls to Wemby. And he'll just be a good facilitator. And they get him for 11 million bucks. So
mm,
guess what? If you need to trade him at the deadline, he's MLE. He's right there.
yep, and I just love it, man. Just from a development
Me too. I,
standpoint,
I do too. Like that, yeah, the value isn't great. I mean, Chris Paul isn't worth $11 million,
I'd
but
argue the mentorship alone, low key, kind
that's
of
what I was going to
is.
get into. What
Hmm.
he can help you do with Wemby, who already looks like top 10 player.
Yeah, I'm not gonna debate that because if he's top, he might be top 10 by the end of the year. I wouldn't put him on the list right now, but if you tell me, yeah, by the end of the 2024-2025 season, he's top 10. Yeah, I believe you.
He might be an all-star starter this season.
Hmm. It's looking scary. Wow.
He looks good. Like
Hmm.
I know everyone said this, but he's probably the best prospect I've seen come out of college or like through the draft, like immediately since AD. I'm gonna knock on wood.
Yeah, yeah. Don't say anything. Just stop that
Unless Chris
statement.
Paul, knock on wood, pulls a Gordon Hayward, there's no way this contract is negative at all.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. I thought you were gonna say like pull a hammy and is out sometime. Homie said Gordon Hayward. That's come on, man.
I more
That's
mean like he
wrong.
has a season-ending injury. I was trying to say like unless that happens, there's no way this is a negative value in any way. The wisdom alone is S
Mhm.
tier.
I definitely agree on that point. We'll move on to the next one though. Obi Toppin re-signs 4 years, 58 million with the oh my god, my brain is slipping right here.
Indiana
Indiana Pacers. I don't know why my brain like
Pacers.
completely slipped. He's literally in the jersey right there. My brain was still thinking Knicks days, but 4 years, 58 million for Obi Toppin.
B.
B. I'm low key like kind of thinking C. I think it's a little bit of an overpay for him, especially because he didn't get. He wasn't like playing premier minutes. I feel like on the Pacers, but I don't
I
know.
mean, he was a very solid addition, especially in the playoffs. For their bench scoring, he was one of the better players, I think, in the Celtics series, especially. The reason I will kind of lean toward what you were saying is I don't really know who they were betting against on this one.
Hmm. I mean, maybe the Hornets were looking to overpay him, or some team with money like the
Maybe.
Jazz, but I just don't see it.
I also think it's a slight overpay.
Hmm.
You could convince me of C tier. I'm not stuck to it. I mean, I like Obi Toppin. I like what he's kind of become since leaving the Knicks.
Hmm.
I think he's going to be a fine bench guy for the Pacers. I don't think he finished that contract on the Pacers. I just think it's
Hmm.
such a tradable contract that there's no way he's going to be there long term. But
Hmm.
it's fine for them. I
I'm
mean,
gonna I'm gonna put it higher on the C tier then, just because I don't feel like it belongs with Hardenstein, Clay, and Jonas with his
fair.
value. All right, next we have Derek Jones, who signed with the Los Angeles Clippers. I believe it was a 3 year, $30 million
That
contract,
is correct.
and
Coming off a veteran minimum to get the MLE is crazy.
no, exactly. And
Good for him.
honestly, I feel like I thought he was gonna get a lot more. If I'm being 100% honest, I
Yeah, I thought he would price himself out at the after the MLE, but
mhm,
money dried up. It
pretty
was clear that
quickly, yeah.
I mean, he signed pretty early, but it was clear most people weren't going to offer more than about the MLE anyways
Hmm.
for most players. I'd say A tier. I really like
A
this
tier,
contract. I
that's
really like this
fair.
value. I really love this value for both Derek Jones and for the Clippers. He's a great 3 and D guy. He gives you lots of hustle. He's got great pop. He's really rebuilt himself. Playing off that minimum, it's just solid signing. I really like this fit for them.
No, I agree for the most part. Yeah, I mean, and that plugging our top 10 free agent video as well. I had him, I believe, number 6 on that video, and I just think it was mainly because of value. I mean, he's going to
Yeah,
provide the Clippers a lot of like what they need now, losing the wing depth in George, and he's not going to replace him, but he's a solid starter. And
yeah. I mean,
for 10 million a year,
he's not going to replace an all-star level player.
mhm,
Shocking.
I know, crazy
But
development.
he's gonna start for the most part, I would imagine, at the three every
Hmm.
night, and I think he's gonna be fine there. Like it for $11 million, I have a starting have a starting forward, like, yeah, you take that.
Next deal, we have Caleb Martin, who signed with the Philadelphia 76ers. I want to say it was a 4-year, $32 million deal, something along those lines. It might have been slightly more money, but it was pretty fair value for
Only
Caleb
fumble the
Martin.
bag.
No, he did fumble the bag. He had, I believe, a 5-year, $65 million extension offer from the Heat, and that was definitely not on the table anymore, this free agency. But
Fair
still,
value.
for the 76ers, this is great. I think it's very fair value for someone who can be a solid starter and actually will play off of Paul George, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey pretty well. I think he slots in at the 4 pretty darn well. You could even mix and match him a little bit at the 3 if you need him, if you're going to play, like, let's say George at the 2. I mean, they're guys who can move a little bit.
Do you think
So
they start him?
I think so. I really do. I mean, I thinking of everyone else on that team, who else are they really going to start at the 4? I mean, I'm trying to think right now. Obviously, Drummond comes off the bench. Maybe Oubre, but
Yeah, I
like,
was thinking he's a little undersized to play the 4.
but that's
Well,
what he's played mostly in Miami. So,
no, I'm talking about Oubre.
oh,
Oubre's a
Oubre,
little
yeah.
undersized to play the 4.
But either way, Caleb Martin. I think we both can we agree on A tier here? It's just because of the value alone. I feel like
So yes, but Google has Joel Embiid listed as a power forward.
that's kind of hilarious. That is hilarious. Step your game up, Google.
Anyways,
But
back
either
to your
way,
regularly scheduled program of this nonsense. Yeah, A tier. I mean, listen, as a Celtics fan, he's the Celtics killer. He single-handedly won them an Eastern Conference Finals against us. I think that he's a little overrated. I don't think his shooting's as good as everyone makes it out to be.
no, he shot
Um,
35%, I believe, last year, like 34.8 or something like that the last 2 years. But I mean, he can
but
shoot it
this
when
is
needed.
this is also the most talented roster he's been on.
hmm
Being the fourth option most nights, maybe even the fifth option, depending if they start Kelly Oubre along with him.
There's lineup flexibility there, which is important. I mean, Caleb Martin's going to give you that too. So
But regardless, he will be playing a lot more with better players like Embiid and Maxey and Paul George. So he will have more open shots, which means I expect him to be taking a higher percentage of threes and a higher percentage open threes. This is a very solid signing for them and is the perfect kind of guy that 76 should be have targeting once they made that all-in push to get the max guy in, Paul George. This is perfect. We'll talk about it later on in separate videos, but 76ers have had one of the best off seasons I've seen in years. Like the roster construction wise, they're not done yet, but woo!
Yes, sir. But we'll move on to the next signing as well. We have Najee Marshall, who signed with the Dallas Mavericks, and I do like the signing a lot. I don't know if I love it as much as some of the other signings, but I'm debating between a B or an A. I'm thinking maybe high B. What are your thoughts?
I feel like it's C.
C.
I feel like you have to
Oh,
factor in the fact that I feel like you have to factor in it's like, is he really an upgrade over Derek Jones?
I don't think he is, but you
It's
got
like
him
why
for
wouldn't
3 years, 27 million, and like I feel
I
like
just I just feel like wouldn't you just keep Derek Jones?
I can understand that sentiment, but at least from everything I've heard, he's a better 3-point shooter. I mean, he's
He
younger.
is
He is a couple years younger, if I remember correctly. He might only be a year younger, actually, but
which
he
is weird.
But Derek Jones, they were saying he relies a lot on his athleticism. Najee's more prototypical 3-and-D, which Mavericks need. I
Yeah.
like the fit. I think the fit enough carries it to a B. I can understand maybe the
It's low.
hesitancy.
It's low ND. I just really don't like that they chose this or weren't willing to go to where Derek Jones wanted and chose this instead. I agree as a pivot, this is the perfect option to pivot to. It's just like I kind of would have preferred Derek Jones, but I will also say this: you don't want to bet on something that's kind of unpredictable with Derek
Mm,
Jones. Last year was kind of an outlier for him. You don't know if that's going to be able to be reciprocated.
mm.
So I get it from that standpoint. So I'll say low NB. It's just chemistry wise, like y'all were doing so good with Derek Jones. Why not just stick with it? But I get it. Business.
And on the inverse too, I think Najee can play into this contract. Like I exceed his value. He's
Oh,
still sort of
100%.
young.
100%.
Like he ain't no 23, 22 year old, but he's still, if you tell me by the end of his contract he's like insanely cheap, like on a $9 million deal, and he's playing like a $20 million player, I believe it. I mean, I think it makes sense, especially in this system, like paired with a generational passer like Luca. Sure, sign me up. But moving on, next I have the Warriors signing Kyle Anderson. I believe it was a 3 year deal. I'm actually gonna have to fact check that because I don't remember what he signed for, but
I thought it was 3 years, 27.
that's what I thought off the top of my head. I didn't want to lie to the audience, but
It's fine.
we're gonna cook with that for now. I think it's an okay
Fine.
signing. It's not
Yeah,
out of
it's
this
it's
world.
C tier for me. It's just fine.
Yeah, I would argue maybe B, but I'm not like crazy enough to like fight for Kyle Anderson that
It's
much. So
Kyle Anderson.
it
Like, I'm
is 100%.
sorry. Like, unless they got him on for like $2 million a year, like 9 millions
Pretty standard for
value.
him.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I like it from the sense that he's kind of Draymond Green, light for this team, almost insurance, I would say.
Mm,
He really can't play small ball five, but he can play your four role if you need him to, and he's a fine option. I
mm.
mean, he he's got the good hustle in him. I think he's gonna fit fine for this team. It's
Gives
a
them more
more
forward
size.
depth.
It gives
Hmm.
them more size, which they've always needed. I felt like, but I mean, it's nothing out of this world. It's
Hmm.
just fine. It's just fine. And fine signings are okay. Not all signings have to be S tier and A tier.
Hmm.
Again, this was a need. They needed a little more size, and this is a fine size option. He's fine.
Yep. And we got a couple more Warrior signings actually, right? Like all back to back. I have D'Anthony Melton next, who signed with the Warriors. It was 1 year for the mid level exception. I believe it was like $12.8 million. Is it another C or B? Like, are we
It's
going?
it's it's B because of the potential.
Mm, I like it. It gives them another defensive guard, which Lord knows they need in Golden State. I mean,
What I'll say about this, I don't love that it's only a 1 year deal. Why
mm,
couldn't you get it with a like Melton didn't have that much control? I feel like give him the
mm,
1 year and then give him a team option for the second year.
mm.
Now, if he pops, like you're paying him in hopes that he's gonna pop and
And
have, but now you like now you're F if he does pop.
it's not even that too. It's like if you give him that second year team option, you can accept and have it as like a $12 million trade exception almost, even if he is good. Like
Yeah, but I mean he's a fine, not really a Klay Thompson replacement, but kind of a Klay Thompson replacement.
just another
Um,
guard. The next guy we'll be talking about is I don't want to say a fine Klay Thompson replacement because it's super disrespectful, but which I guess we'll move into it right now. Actually, sorry to cut you off, but Buddy Hield to the Warriors also just another guard they add. I believe it was a longer term deal. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I was quite shocked to see they got him locked up for a while.
yeah, it's at
Dare
least a 3 year deal, I want to say.
mhm. Dare I say B tier as well, kind of same level as D'Anthony Melton maybe. And I think the only reason I would say that is just because I think the Warriors motion offense will benefit him a lot. Whether
Yeah, 4 years, 38 million.
we cool with B tier for him, I'm kind of like
I kind of love the value for Buddy Hield. I mean, $8-9 million a year for
mhm,
someone who shot over 40% for many seasons in his life. I mean, one of the better 3 point shooting players. He just wasn't that when the
mhm.
Sixers got him last year.
I
I mean,
think
he's not the best defensive player, but I mean, I like the upside that he can bring offensively for
mhm,
the Warriors. Yeah, it's probably high upside B.
I
A
just
does feel a
after
little
the playoffs,
disrespectful.
I can't put him at A tier just because you can't be a disappearing act in the playoffs. Like
Well, then Klay Thompson has to be a D tier
hey man, listen. If
by
we're
your logic.
It wasn't playoffs though. It was play in 0 for 10. Like now let me chill. Let me let him
Somehow
live.
worse.
But
In an
I'll
elimination game is wild.
those memes will never go away. But Buddy Hield, I think fair B tier. This is a signing you're really not going to care about. Max Christie resigns with the Lakers. I couldn't even give you the number. Let me actually look that up because that's
It's
actually
like 4 years, 48 million, or four
Mhm,
years, 44 million, something like that. Lakers experts love this
mhm,
for the Lakers and Max Christie. Everyone who I follow and listen to as far as Lakers media say that he was underutilized heavily by Darvin Ham.
mhm,
Um, I don't see it. I
mhm,
don't see the value, but you always play young players for what they can be.
Mhm.
This is about the same contract Peyton Pritchard gets, so it's like I really can't say too much about it in the sense of like it's bad value. It's fine. I mean, I personally think it's C for me because it's like
Mhm.
I really
I would agree.
I haven't seen it to believe it, but a lot of experts and Lakers media members who I follow say they really love this value for them. Value wise, yeah, it's fine. I mean, we'll see.
Either way, we'll move on. Next, we have Kelly Oubre resigning with the Philadelphia 76ers.
Cute Oubre, my
Yeah.
man.
Ayo. Um, dare I say just
A,
wow.
A,
A.
A. I love this for them. I was
Woo.
shocked that they were going to be able to re-sign him. I got what he showed us earlier in that season last year, and still overall, what I think he can bring for this team, especially again now with Paul George, I love it. Like it's just consistent scoring. Like
Mhm.
if for whatever reason one or two of these guys can't play, like if Embiid and Maxey can't play one night, but you still have Paul George, you can still win games with Paul George and Oubre, no problem, because he can provide you solid, consistent offense.
I would probably lean more towards B tier, but I can see the rationale in A tier. I don't know if I
I
look
mean, it's what 2 years, 18 million or something like that.
something along those lines. So
It's perfectly fair value. Like I love this value for the 76. Like I'm shocked at how well they did with a lot of these contracts.
I'll let it breathe, especially because I think because he was on their team, they were able to manipulate the cap a little bit more due to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give it to them, sure. Oh,
Two
sorry.
years, 16 million. They signed him for $8 million a year. Like that's amazing value for what
Hmm.
Kelly Oubre is as a player.
Fair enough, fair enough. Moving on next though, we have Sadiq Bey who signed with the Wizards. Another weird Wizard signing. It feels like 3 years, 19 million.
So what this is we have to remember Sadiq Bey got injured very late last season, or
Mm-hmm.
not in the playoffs. It was late last season. He's going to be out, if not the entire season, most of the season.
Mm-hmm.
This is the Wizards saying, "Hey, I haven't seen the contract structure. I would assume the first year is guaranteed. The second and third are either partially or fully non-guaranteed,
Mm-hmm.
because this is the Wizards saying, "Hey, we'll pay you to be on our team, and we'll see how it looks." And
Mm-hmm.
that's fine for a player like Sadiq Bey. I like Sadiq Bey. I think he
Yeah.
can really provide you a lot of offensive upside for a team that's young enough that he still fits in their timeline. I think this is C value just because it's like it's fine. I like this move for them, to be very honest with you. I really do. It's just we'll see how he looks post injury.
Next signing, ironically, we were just talking about good Piston signing. Simon Fontecchio, I want to say it was 2 years, 16 million. You can fact
Yep.
check me on that,
No,
but
that's right.
he was very good to end the season. Like if you look at his
Yeah, he
stats,
was.
he was like after trade deadline, his stats were actually phenomenal. I remember when I was doing the Pistons video.
This is one of my guys. I love
Mhm. It's
Fontecchio.
one of the
I
guys.
was I was beyond struggling to kind of understand why the Jazz let him go. And
Hmm.
when he landed with the Pistons, I'm like, ooh,
Hmm.
ooh, this is the perfect guy they need. Just take high end talent and see where it can go.
Spacer with Cade,
Well,
especially with that like roster. You got Holland, you got Ivy, you got a bunch of guys who can't really shoot. Fontecchio's
Tobias
gonna at least
Harris.
help Tobias Harris. I mean, he'll be all right, but he ain't a sharpshooter. But Fontecchio,
Yeah, we
he
were
can
talking
be
about
that.
players who can't shoot.
Hey, man. I mean, I wouldn't say Tobias can't shoot. He's just not, he's not great either. I mean, he's
He's
like
out.
average. He's like
He's out
average.
there laying the brickworks.
And that's come playoff time. The Pistons, lucky for them, they won't be in the playoffs. So,
Relax. Homie's like, I can't shoot bad because I never have to play in the playoffs ever again.
exactly,
Chess, not
exactly.
checkers, Tobias Harris. I see you.
No, 100%. But no, going back to the Fontecchio signing, I love it. Look at his stats like after trade deadline, and you'll be like, damn, I want to say it was like 15 points per game on good efficiency. You'll be like, damn, really,
Something like
Fontecchio?
that.
Like, great signing. Love this for them.
I do too. Love it.
Moving on to the next signing, we have Andre Drummond, who signed with the 76ers. Going to be their backup center. I don't expect him to
Two
get.
years, 10 million?
I believe that was actually the very first signing of free agency, too, ironically.
Nope.
No? Oh,
Luke
Luke
Cornett.
Cornett, my bad, my bad. The
Don't
second,
you ever, ever,
the first
ever,
player to switch teams. There you go. That's what it was.
don't you ever disrespect Luke Cornett ever again.
But I'd say B tier. He's gonna be the backup center. He was great. He's still always a great rebounder. He was fine with them when he played with the 76ers before. I think it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, this is excellent value for what Andre Drummond is, and he's going to be their backup big. I'd like to see them get another backup big on that 76ers team, but this is perfect. God forbid, and not even God forbid, Embiid's going to miss time. I hope it's not like extended periods of time, but he's going to miss games. There's no way he plays 82 full games in a season. It's
Hmm.
just not happening.
So it's a decent insurance policy.
At worst, he's not going to be a huge liability. He starts out there for you. Like, this is a very solid signing for him. He's their backup. He might play 15 minutes some nights. He might play 25. It's going to depend.
Mm,
But he's going to get your rebounds. He's going to block some shots. It's really all you need him to do.
definitely, definitely. Move on to the next signing. Eric Gordon, signed with the 76ers as well. Another pretty decent signing from them. We thinking B tier for this one too, or maybe high C tier?
High C tier. It's a
High
veteran
C
minimum
tier.
for a guy who is a veteran minimum player. I think it's a very good veteran minimum guy for them to have gotten. But
Mm,
unless you wow me, or like it's an under market signing for a minimum, I don't really ever value a minimum higher than a C tier.
mm,
There's a reason they're a minimum player. Unless the market fried up and we're talking about Gary Trent, there's nothing that kind of wows me for a minimum signing. He's a bench role player. Like, he might not play more than 10, 15 minutes a night most nights. But I mean, it's solid for them. He can shoot the three. I'm like not going to disrespect the man that much, but
mm.
it's fine. Like,
No,
he's a role player for them, and that's perfect. That's what they needed. They needed solid role players to surround the roster with.
100% agree with those points. It's going to be a solid role player, 10, 15 minutes a night. Maybe if there's injuries, you get 20, 25 minutes a night, but solid
Exactly.
signing.
Yeah.
Uh, Moving on to the next signing, Malik Beasley signed with the Pistons. I believe it was like a 1 year, $5
One year's
million
one year
contract.
6 million.
6 million. Okay. I
I
love
hate
this.
this.
Whoa. Okay. Okay. Okay.
I hate this for the league.
Oh, for the
I
league. Okay. Okay. I was going to say for the Pistons, I love this
Oh
because it
no, for
gives
the
them
Pistons,
another
this
shooter.
this is amazing for the Pistons.
Mm
I really wanted to see Malik Beasley on a contender.
hmm. Mm hmm. 100% agree. I would have loved to have seen
But
him
yes,
like.
this is a solid signing for them.
Mhm.
Solid. Just nothing to complain about. When you give someone $6 million, unless they're like James Young levels of bad, you can't really go wrong.
So I'm gonna put him B tier. I think that's pretty fair. James Young catching a stray 10 years after his career ended is crazy. Our next deal we have is James Wiseman signing with the Indiana Pacers. This is a deal I'm just not very like in love with or high on, but
I sent this to you on Twitter, and I think I was really excited, and you're like, meh.
yeah, I was like, who cares?
That was your exact like, who cares?
That's a
I'm
hundred.
like, oh damn.
You're like, I'm sorry, okay, man. I didn't realize you're the James Wiseman hate club member, but
So this is what I'll say.
mhm,
I'm always a big proponent of letting bigs take their time to develop. Bigs
mhm.
take a long time to develop sometimes. Wiseman had lots of time. Golden
Golden State.
State, but kind of got knocked around the rotation a bunch with unsecured minutes. I thought he was going to be fine when he got moved over to the Pistons. That didn't really work out too well, and I don't want to say it's now or never for him, but it's this or a minimum going. It's
Yeah.
this or a minimum going forward.
Mhm.
Either he performs or it's going to be a minimum until he shows us otherwise. But it's fine.
Either way, I don't see a ton of playing time here, but I mean,
No,
it's
but
a solid young
let him
upside
rehab, let him
signing.
kind of like rehab, kind of. It's a smaller market. Let him kind of like learn behind some of the other bigs. If he gets in there, perfect. But just kind of let him do his thing. Let him kind of get his footing on his own. I think it's fine for them. It's C tier. Like, I'm not gonna get crazy about it. It's low end C tier because like the potential was there, but we haven't really seen it in a while. So it's a solid signing for the Pacers team, who's still young enough where like you could use a roster spot on a player like this.
But yeah, we'll move on to the next signing.
Luke
Uh,
Cornett minimum deal.
I'm gonna add him at the end just to make you happy. But no, this one will make you very happy or very sad. I mean, probably sad based on your reaction to Malik Beasley. But Gary Trent, 1 year deal to the Milwaukee Bucks.
This is an insane discount for a player who I would arguably say is at least worth minimum 20 million a year.
I don't know if I'd say 20 million because then I think he would have gotten
He
20
should have
million.
gotten something similar to
I'd
what
say 12
KCP
to
got.
15. I'd say 12 to 15 for sure. He doesn't have the defense KCP has. I'm gonna cautiously put A. Like I could get the rationale for S tier, but I feel like S tier we gotta leave for like
I just
the
feel like the
grow.
value is so
It
amazing.
is good.
Like the fact that a team like the Bucks were able who can only
Mm-hmm,
offer minimums. They can only offer minimums.
100%, yeah.
And he's gonna start for them. He and
Mm-hmm,
Dame are totally gonna be the starting guard. That's amazing for them. It's amazing.
mm-hmm.
I'm so mad that they got this guy for a minimum, but like, wow.
Yeah, no, definitely. Amazing value, definitely like one of the teams that really needed a guard too. So
Yeah,
I
badly,
mean,
especially with Malik Beasley leaving.
mhm. So I'd even argue he's probably a little bit of an upgrade over Malik Beasley, dare I say that, but love this
Excuse
signing for
me.
the Bucks. Next, we got a couple Orlando re-signings. Next, we got Mo Wagner, who signed a pretty massive deal.
Ooh.
Actually, I don't remember the exact numbers. I want to say it was like 4 years, 40. No, I'm way tripping. It's 2 years,
2 years
22.
20. Yeah, I'm not even
Yeah,
looking at it. I know it's 2 years 20.
yeah. Fake Orlando fan here. Sorry.
The second
It's
year
got
is
to.
five. I'm almost guaranteeing you the second year is either a
Mhm.
team option or it's non-guaranteed.
It's
The
got to.
magic.
It's got to be a C tier, right? Like it's just it's okay.
It's
It's Mo
fine. Yeah,
Wagner.
it's fine.
It's
They love Mo Wagner in
hmm
Orlando, and I think he
he's
fulfills a very good role for them. He's
mhm.
kind of like that third big irritant that you like to have, and he's fine. He's a great locker room guy for sure. As someone who had him on their Celtics team, I loved him when he was in the Celtics.
Mhm.
He's just a fun player to have around.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, brother there too. I mean, they're building the culture over there, and he's been pretty good. He kind of revived his career there, and he's been good ever since. Moving on, next one, we got Goga Batadze, who signed 3 year, $25 million contract. I don't hate it for Orlando either.
Little bit of an overpay for
It
Coco
is,
Battaglia, but
but
I'm shocked. I'm shocked that he took this to stay in Orlando. Like I'm
100%. I'm
genuinely shocked.
100% agree. I'm gonna put him next to Mo on the C tier just because, like, even still, he's their third big still. Like, we got Mo and you got
There's
obviously
no
Wendell
way he
Carter.
goes not Wendell Carter, then Goga, then Mo. There's no way Mo's your backup. He's your third center at best.
I mean, he plays more of the 4 and the 5, and Mo definitely got more minutes than Goga. Like Goga was getting DNP'd towards the end of the year, but I
Yeah,
mean,
but
he had.
what I would say is Mo is more of your bench big.
Mhm.
Goga's more of your if Wendell can't go,
That
he's your spot
yes,
starter,
that I 100% agree. That I
which
hundred
is
percent agree.
critical because they love
Mm,
from what I've noticed they love Mo coming off the bench. They don't really like
I wouldn't start him
starting him
either.
because he has so much energy. Like he just revitalizes the bench.
And I like Goga. He filled in very nicely when Wendell was hurt. There was a reason Orlando I think won 9 in a row. Like he was a part of that stretch. So definitely like it. I'm surprised he didn't sign where he could have a bigger role, but I guess
That's
now
kind
he
of where I'm
has.
at too.
I guess he has financial security with 25 million over 3 years. I guess I get it from that sense, especially because he was a guy who was almost out of the league a year ago. So
I mean, personally, I wouldn't accept that. I'd turn it down for a bigger bag, but we're not all
yeah,
breadwinners.
sometimes if you do that, you end up like Nerlens Noel or Dennis
Dennis
Schroeder.
Schroeder,
Exactly. So yeah, next we got we got Nicholas Batum who signed with the Clippers.
it's
Just
fine.
another mess signing. I mean,
I mean, again, like
the
I was
C
saying
tier is getting
earlier,
pretty full, but
they were there weren't a lot of great free agents this season. It's part of the problem,
mhm,
but I don't feel like overly high or low about this one. It's just fine. He's part of that aggregate I was talking about in wings. You're trying to rebuild Paul George with. He's fine. Like
yeah.
it's like Batum. Like he's fine.
But yeah, moving on, Dario Saric to the Nuggets. Another just mess signing, but I mean, I do like him on the Nuggets team
I
and
like
this
him for the
Nuggets team.
Nuggets
Hmm.
who have desperately needed some bench players.
Hmm.
But yeah, I really don't have anything crazy to be like, yeah. I mean, I think he's going to play an excellent role there. It's like I got to see it first. I
Hmm.
could very easily see this turning into a he's cut midway through the season if like he's not really getting it. Like
Yeah. He's bounced around a lot for a reason. I think the idea of Dario Saric right now is better than what he actually is, but it's cool.
yeah,
Maybe Denver can revitalize him.
agree.
Moving on, we got Monte Morris, who or sorry, not Monte Morris. Jesus, I have such bad eyesight. Alec Burks, who signed with the Heat. Another signing that I like pretty well, but like I don't know if I can put it above C tier. Like it's just another okay signing.
Yeah, putting it at B tier fear is wrong.
Mm-hmm. I'll
Like
go.
Like he was getting DMP'd a lot at the end of that Knicks run. A
Hmm.
lot.
But he had a couple playoff games where he was kind of going off. I'm not gonna lie, especially in that Pacers
Yeah.
series. So I mean, if he can bring
Fair.
that to Miami, sure, cool. But
It doesn't really give him a higher ceiling. But yeah,
exactly.
it's fine.
Hmm. No, 100% agree. Moving on to the next signing, Kyle Lowry re-signing with the Philadelphia 76ers. Dare I say B, or is it just another C? Like
No, I was gonna say B for the culture of it.
hmm.
Like Kyle Lowry is not long for the NBA, but he lives in like his family's in Philly. It meant a lot to him to go back there last season. It felt like, and this is again, I always like the end of career role players on these kind of teams. I think he does fill a very big role, and this team is kind of like that veteran presence at the point guard position.
Hmm.
And at worst, he's a very good mentor for Maxey. Like I like this. I like this one a lot. This is the expected move for him. I don't think he's gonna play a lot, like night to night, but I think he'll be a big part of this team.
Mm. No, most definitely. Just typical backup point guard, veteran guy. I like it for Philly. Bringing him back, perfect.
Solid,
Cool.
solid.
More fills out that bench even more, which we were really concerned with at the beginning of this
Yeah, I
offseason.
mean, I always had faith in them. Never doubted them.
Yeah, Jacob never. If you look at the receipts, Jacob never once doubted them. Torian Prince to the Milwaukee Bucks. No, they're just okay,
This is
solid signing. Dare I
it's
say?
okay. It's a very solid
Hmm.
minimum signing, though. I would say I would.
B or C? We thinking B might be overrating it a little bit.
It might be overrating it, but it's also under market value. Like
Hmm. I
Torian
feel like
Prince
he
is
could have gotten 5 or 6 million,
he
which is
could have, and I think that I would say B. I really like what the Bucks have done with
mhm.
the minimum signings this year. Torian Prince B tier.
Torian Prince B tier. All right, perfect. And then last we got Monte Morris who signed with the Phoenix Suns. Another C
B.
tier. B.
Oh, I think B.
Whoa. Ooh. Okay.
I think B for what he does for the Suns.
I do think Monte Morris is a guy who like kind of has bounced around a little bit now. He was one of the best backup point guards in Denver for a long time and then just kind of fell
Yeah.
off the face of the earth. I can get I guess B tier for a Suns team that really has no business signing anyone great, but
That and they so clearly desperately needed a point guard. We said it all off season last season. We said it all season last season, and they never really figured it out. I think this is a very good guard signing for them who desperately needs a facilitator. Same thing like I was talking about with a couple other teams that have done really good minimum signings. The Suns have done very good work this season, I think, this offseason.
no, definitely. I mean, as much
What are
as they
they?
can do, yeah.
They got Plumlee on a minimum. Is that am I
Yeah, I didn't include him on the list. He was one of the few I left off,
I
but he's
mean,
another minimum.
he would be a C tier guy
Hmm.
anyways. But again, the Suns have done very. I think we're going to see a lot more of this. We're going to see a lot more of players who maybe should get MLEs or like biannuals or non-taxpayers are going to be taking more minimums to play with more contenders. I think
Hmm.
it's going to be. I don't want to say a consequence of the second apron CBA, but I think just a fallout of it.
Hmm.
Um, Gary Trent's an extreme version. And I will plug this. I'm curious to see what happens with Tyus Jones. I
Hmm.
don't think he takes the minimum. I think that Tyus Jones at this point might just re-sign with the Wizards.
Hmm.
But if he takes a minimum, shit's gonna get crazy depending on
Yeah.
where he goes. Like, whoo,
There's a couple
that's
other guys who I'm interested to see like minimums. Like I think
Luke
Fultz is still a free agent, which is
Luke
interesting as well.
Kennard, one of the
Luke
best three-point
Kennard.
shooters in the
Hmm.
past few seasons on a minimum would be actually insane.
Mm. And we're back from the future now. We have Jalen Smith. We completely forgot to add him into the list, but
We
Jalen
were
Smith.
we were so excited about Luke Cornett, we forgot about Jalen Smith.
Jalen Smith, 3 year, $27 million deal with the Bulls. I really like the signing. I'm gonna put it in B tier just because they're getting a young player who has upside, and this Bulls team needs a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, this is excellent value for a young guy. It fits their quote
Where
unquote
they need to go.
timeline if that's where they
Hmm.
go. If they can salary dump Vucevic at this point and just give him all the minutes at center.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, these are the signings that the Bulls should be making. Like, this is very solid work. $9 million. Like, listen, anything less than $12 million, I would say now is fair value for almost anyone. Like that's anything less than the mid levels. Like how can you really complain about that?
Hmm. No, definitely. And, this Bulls team, I'm just happy that they're finally doing things like this rather than, hey, let's repay an old DeMar or let's.
Think heading in this direction.
Exactly. We'll see. We'll see. It's gonna hinge on the
Until
Levine trade.
Vucevic and Levine get traded, we'll see. But they are heading in a different direction, I will say. Like it's very clear, like not re-signing DeMar and giving away Caruso. They're definitely choosing a direction.
Mhm.
That direction is losing.
But that's what they need to do, especially with they gotta secure the flag, Cooper flag. Let's go. Get that number one draft pick.
It's gonna be so hilarious when the Spurs get it again.
Don't speak that into existence. But anyways, that was our rankings of all the major NBA free agency signings this offseason. Let us know in the comment section below who you think were your major free agent signings or who you think were the best signings, where you'd have these players ranked. And yeah, any last words for us, Jacob, before we head on out?
So personally, I only see two players in S tier.
Only to yep.
We're just, gonna forget about
Luke
White Mamba the
yeah.
GOAT.
Oh my lord.
NBA champion before Joel Embiid, GOAT, like best big in the NBA, Luke Cornett, co-founder of the Corn Test. Like, what's going on here?
Listen, there was a reason he was the very first player signed right off the bat. It's because he's such a hot commodity, man.
He said I want it to be done first so that everyone remembers me. That will forever be
That's 100% the only reason me as a Magic fan remembers he even signed, because he was the very first signing. Like
I'll never forget unseeing that. Well, the first Rose Bomb brace at like 6:01, I'm like scrambling for my phone. Luke Cornett resigns. I'm like,
come on.
my hero.
But anyways, once again, thank you for tuning in and watching. As always, if you enjoy this type of content, hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us out a ton. I'm Chris. Thank you once again for watching.
I'm the long lost son of someone I just slandered, James Young. My name is Jacob. Please like, subscribe. Y'all have been killing it lately. Please continue to love. We love seeing it all. Comment who you think the most underrated signing of free agency thus far was and which one we got wrong, because I know all of you are going to think all of these are wrong.
Just like always, right?
Yes.
But once again, thank you for tuning in and have a great one.